Hi, it's Chris Titley here. As part of the Sub 11 podcast, I'm joined by Tim Fung, founder and CEO of Airtasker once again. Tim, thanks so much for having a chat today.
Chris, thanks for having me.
It's been probably about 6 months or so, Tim. So we'll sort of loop back into how the business has gone in the last quarter or so that's been released to the market. A very, I would have thought a very good result for you in regards to the cash flow positive mantra that the company has been focusing on. Do you want to talk about that last result and some of the highlights?
Sure. So I think over the last year, the focus has been on generating positive free cash flow. And that's really been, a big shift from where it was in 21, 22, when the cost of capital was very, very low. And it was all about just driving top line growth and investing a lot of capital in upfront. Clearly, that sentiment shifted. We focused on making sure that we could be free cash flow positive while maintaining a growth trajectory. I'm so pleased to say in the last quarter, we did get to positive free cash flow of about $2.6 million. And that's a huge rip from, negative $7 million in the previous corresponding period. So we're really focused on adjusting back to positive free cash flow. At the same time, we had our group revenue up about 11% for the on PCP. So maintaining that growth into FY25, we think there's a big opportunity to reinvest and get that balancing act in the middle of that, maintain free cash flow positive, whilst getting the top line back onto a more solid track.
And Tim, Airtasker is very well known here in Australia, but also you have operations in the UK and the US. Do you want to talk about those jurisdictions before we loop back into Australia?
Sure. So let's start with the US. So in the United States, we're very much focused on keeping the costs tight as we anticipate doing a media partnership in the US. And so pleased to say that we've managed to keep the costs really, really tight there, and we're making excellent progress on enabling our media partnership strategy in the US. Why are we doing that? Because over in the UK, we're seeing some really, really good results from the media partnership strategy that we developed together with Channel 4. So we have seen our GMV run rate grow significantly in the range of sort of 60% over the past 6 months as we've done this partnership with Channel 4. And we're still in a building phase in the UK, but I think one thing that maybe is not so obvious or intuitive is that in each of these new markets we go into, we're not replicating the fixed cost base of building a platform, hiring new CEOs, executive teams, officers, all this kind of stuff. We're really just setting up a sales and marketing hub in that new market. And so the path to profitability in those new markets is going to be very, very fast, and I think going to be surprising to the upside.
In regards to the types of tasks that are posted in the US and the UK, are they broadly similar to Australia, or is there some sort of nuances where you might be targeting a particular vertical?
No, it's one of the things I think is unique about Airtasker's model is that it's an open community and infinitely horizontal model. What that means is the vast majority of what happens on Airtasker is user-generated content. So we're not driving it. We're not picking a category and going after that category. Users are driving it. That's so powerful because what it means is that consumer demand is sort of self-shaping. The tasks that people need are the tasks that people post, and the taskers fit in with what customers need because they're incentivized to make money. And I think that's part of our secret sauce as a business. We don't have to go into each new market and work out what to do. Consumers, customers, and taskers will work out what we need to do in those markets. What we need to do is make sure that our platform is super robust, scalable, and our systems are set up for scale. And then we need to go build in the brand so that people know, oh, Airtasker is the place where I can get anything done, and then they go. But yeah, what we've noticed though is that the tasks are remarkably similar in each of the different markets. We didn't drive that; consumers tell us that. There are obvious nuances, like I found out yesterday that mostly in the United States they don't really call a barbecue; they mostly call it the grill.
Right.
So if you clean the barbecue in the United States, they'd call that clean the grill. But for the most part, it's a similar kinds of jobs.
Now, in the last 6 months since we've chatted, NVIDIA has become the largest company in the world with AI, and it's all about AI. I'm interested to know that Airtasker platform would have heaps of data everywhere. Are you using AI internally, or is it AI a sort of an opportunity or a threat in your business?
So first of all, I think that as in our core business model, I'm feeling better than ever about our core business model. Why is that? I think if you look at what Airtasker does, we physically connect people in the real world to do real physical jobs, like fix my oven door, like get a drone out of a tree, like mow my lawn. And those are all things that I think are going to be the last things that actually get either automated or AI'd out of existence. And in fact, I think that human beings are always going to be at the forefront of the next thing that people want. So even if, let's take lawn mowing. Lawn mowing gets AI'd and automated and that. We have so many people on our platform who do lawn mowing who have other skills, and they will move on to doing new things. So I think from a business perspective, we're very, very in a good place in relation to that. And that is different to say if you were a software business or if you were a marketplace that focused on, say, graphic design jobs or things like software programming and stuff. So I think Airtasker in a great position from that perspective. That said, I think every business is going to be impacted by AI, and there are two main areas that we look at. One is operational efficiency. So, for example, customer service, all of our developers using Copilot, all of the different things we can do on that side of things. And Airtasker has already started seeing some gains from implementing a number of changes there, operational efficiencies. The second bucket is all around product and user journey. And we think that there's a lot of opportunities. For example, describing your task. We can use LLMs to say, look, we've seen what 20 million good tasks look like. We can probably help you out with how to write a good task description, how to advise you on what prices a job's going to take based on AI and machine learning. So I think there is a huge opportunity there. But big picture, I do think we're in a little bit of an AI hype cycle right now. And so I think you do want to be cautious about, as a company like Airtasker or any kind of business, about potentially overinvesting in a cycle like this. And I think it's a good thing to be across it, be educating yourself, be building up the skills internally to know what you're doing, but also to let other people do their jobs and work out what's going on. Let the Microsofts and the OpenAIs do a lot of the experimentation, and then take the best stuff from that.
That's a very good point, Tim, and it's all to play for. And obviously, we'll do this chat in 6 months' time, and we'll see where AI and what different industries have been affected by that. But certainly, there's a lot of noise around that at the time in a previous podcast, and also just mentioned before about the importance of brand partnerships, and talked about the UK and the rise of the number of tasks that you've done there with that media partner there. A big announcement yesterday on the ASX in regards to a partnership with Media. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So what we've worked out with Airtasker is that we are very much a platform-based business. And then on top of the platform that we've built, the marketplace platform, we really need to build out our brand awareness to drive liquidity into that marketplace and establish the network effect that makes Airtasker special. So the partnership with Media enables us to be able to build out our brand awareness in Australia with $6 million of media firepower across all of their billboards and digital signage all across Australia, and allows us to do that in a really capital efficient way. So the way it was structured is we get about $6 million of media from Media in exchange for a $5 million convertible note. The convertible note is such that Airtasker has the option to either repay the note in 2 years' time with about a 5.8% interest on top, or we can convert that into equity at a 10% discount to the share price in 2 years' time. And I think both of those outcomes are really good. If we pay it back in cash, we're effectively getting fronted for 2 years at 5%, 5.8% interest rate, which is super capital efficient. Like if you sort of ask what venture debt or any kind of people are borrowing at, it's probably in the range of 3 times that number.
Say mid-teens.
So really, really efficient way, capital efficient way of scaling our brand in that sense. but also backstop with the fact that if we have a better thing to do with our money in the next 2 years, we can also convert it to equity. And a 10% discount is probably what you would be, at least in this market, raising on market at. And we're pretty optimistic that in 2 years' time, our share price can be a hell of a lot higher than it is today.
Do you want to give the listeners out there a little bit of an understanding of what Media does and where I suppose you'll be targeting your advertising? It's not on TV, it's not on streaming services, etc., but it's outdoors.
Sure. So it's a funny name to have to translate, but OO is actually spelled OOH. So it's out of home media. Out of home media is basically all the billboards you see along the freeways, digital signage that you see in at the airports or in retail locations. And these guys at O Media own about 45% of the market in Australia. So they've got they're huge coverage. They're the biggest player by far. They have about 35,000 sites across Australia. And one of the really cool things about out-of-home media is, first of all, it's very unmissable. So if you look at how crowded TV and video media is becoming through social networks and all that kind of thing, even with listening media, audio media, it's getting very, very crowded. There are a lot of people creating content, and that's awesome. But it also means it's kind of hard to get your message through because just so much stuff going on. Whereas out-of-home media is cut through. There's only one sign on that freeway. There's only one sign at that train station, and if you can own that, it's really unmissable. The second thing is it's a really highly trusted form of media. So when you have a look at ads that you see on Instagram or on Meta, there are various levels of trusted brands on that. Of course, there's Coca-Cola and there's Amex. These really, really trusted brands, but there's also some a little bit more questionable brands on that platform, and that tends not to be the case with out-of-home media. Out-of-home media tends to be brands that people trust, and research suggests that it's the most trusted form of traditional media that kind of exists. So I think that's really it's really powerful. The assets that O Media owns. The other really cool thing, which I think is starting to become at the forefront, is retail media and contextually relevant media. So if you kind of think about where a lot of marketing dollars are going these days, it's going closer to the point of purchase. And so you'll see that in stores, you're starting to see signage. You're also starting to see a lot more signage in things like Westfields when people are just about to walk into, the Woolworths or the Coles, and you can have a big impact with that. So I think O Media is making some great progress there, and particularly for Airtasker. When people buy a piece of IKEA furniture assembly, IKEA furniture, or buy something that needs to be, an electronic appliance, those things either need to be assembled or installed. So there's some pretty cool contextually relevant stuff we can do to find customers at the right time there.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about that in regards to timing, placement. I mean, I did see a sign yesterday. There was a State of Origin on yesterday that, watch the State of Origin tonight. So it is dynamic. It can be uploaded pretty quickly in terms of the types of advertising. I'm looking forward to some of the advertising that Airtasker is doing. Are you going to give me any sneak peeks into what's going to be shown across the nation?
Well, first thing is, and I noticed you are wearing a maroon shirt. Is that related to your affiliation?
I am from Queensland. Yes.
I remember we used to have people in a previous role where people would come to work with maroon suits and all sorts of things.
Yes.
Anyway, well, first of all, Airtasker, I think we like to have a lot of fun with our marketing. It's a fun brand, and that's actually part of our secret sauce, is that you can get a lot of things from Airtasker. And so there's a lot of cool content that comes up on our platform, and telling those stories is usually, we have a lot of fun doing that. So expect a lot of fun messaging and marketing happen. But bringing it back to the operating leverage of the business model, I think this is also something which is very interesting. What we've done is we've built the platform, and we're now turbocharging our drive into brand awareness by partnering with these media firms. In other words, we're making sure that every dollar that we're using can be turbocharged to get as much brand awareness, much leverage as we can out there with people knowing and using Airtasker. The more that we do these media partnership deals, the more that you can actually invest into the content that you're putting out there via that advertising. So as an example, if you're only marketing in Australia, you're probably going to, be able to spend X amount of dollars on say a content or a television ad because you're only showing it to 25 million people. But if you were showing that to 100 million people across the UK and Australia, you'd probably put in a little bit more effort into
Mm.
how much you can invest into that, into either that advertisement. And if you're doing that across the United States too, suddenly you got 450 million people, and it's very, very much more worth it to invest into that content. And that's a virtuous cycle, because if you make that ad more awesome, then the marketing works better, and things go around like that. And so I think we've got some huge opportunities to invest into great content, and I'm really, really excited about some of the possibilities there that we're exploring.
Now, I've seen some founders in the past feature themselves on advertising, and we're going to see Tim Fung in some of the advertising.
I really hope not. We're actually trying to sell the product, so we want to. No, I mean, obviously, I mean, there's different parts. So, I mean, in some sense, going out and talking on podcasts and talking about the vision of the company is super important in the B2B space. Certainly in the investor marketing space, super important. But yeah, when it comes to consumer advertising and talking to people about all the cool things that happen on Airtasker, that will not be me. No. Hopefully, we can get Ryan Gosling or something.
Oh yeah, maybe some sort of influencer. Yes. Tim, one final question. I can sense the energy. I can see the energy in this recent announcement and also the last quarterly from you. You wake up every day being the listed company CEO of a growing global technology company. Why are you excited, and what keeps you going?
I think being an ASX listed company, first of all, it's great in terms of driving discipline. You get marked on a daily basis, and frankly, when you get the crap kicked out of you, as we had back in 2022, that's really helpful. It actually tells you, hey, investors want something else. They want you to be profitable. They want you to be free cash flow positive. And so it was really a great discipline for us to go, that's what we need to do. So we've taken our medicine, we've taken that, we've gotten to profitability, we're significantly free cash flow generative now. What excites me though is from that stable base going back into growth. And we've really, constraint has definitely bred creativity. Over the past 2 years, when you're investing less, you start going, how do we make more out of every dollar that we have? And I think our media partnership strategy, where we're really making every use of every dollar of cash that we have and turbocharging that with local media partnerships, is super, super exciting. We've started to already build momentum on that. So Channel 7, obviously in Australia, Channel 4 in the UK, own media now, and stay tuned because we're working on accelerating this strategy.
Tim, thanks so much for giving an update on Airtasker, the recent quarterly, and also that really important announcement yesterday on the ASX. Always a pleasure to have a chat with you. Thank you so much for giving your time, and looking forward to catching up.
Thanks for having me, Chris.